So the other reason why I was ignored, beside asking questions, is because I was seeking approval. And what happened is when you do something in Native society and you ignore yourself, your environment ignores you. It's like a reflection. And I was ignored because I was seeking an outside approval, and it took 1.5 years for me to learn and grow. And when I was ignored, I realized I'm not going to get any pats on the back from anybody. So I decided to give approval to myself. And when that happened, everything changed.
Whoa.
And I thought that Twyla just hated me, and she was too embarrassed to ask me to move out. But after 1.5 years, she started to pour a lot of compliments on my little head. But that time, I didn't need it anymore. So that was my training. It was not easy.
So the Native Americans, they reflect you back. They reflect, for instance, you have this inner weakness of needing approval.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just reflecting that back to you so that you could overcome it. Is that it?
Right. And maybe this is a good time for me to talk about children upbringing.
Let's do it.
Because I was a child that needed some growing. So the thing that completely magnetized me to study this philosophy, and that's when I decided that that's what I'm going to dedicate my life to, was after Women Council. Twyla came to New York to give some lectures, and I went to one of those lectures, and she started to talk about her upbringing, and she told 2 stories. And I'm going to tell those 2 stories.
Okay, great.
Actually, I'm going to tell one story, and that's the way you'll understand, and I'll continue from there. But what she said that her parents, when she was raised, they always made sure that she's with them on eye level. They'll either sit on a chair and she was standing up, or they'll put her on the chair. She can be in the same eye level, so nobody needs to look up or down at anybody.
Wow.
That's why I said there is no leader or follower, and that's one of the same idea. And then she told us the story, and the story was when she was little, she was a dancer, and she was always looking for a stage. And one day she found a great stage, and it was in the top of the chicken hoop, where they had the chickens.
The chicken coop.
Hoop. Hoop, what's
All
the
right.
difference? So, but she didn't know how to go up there. But as I say, Native philosophy is taught by observation, and they're great observers, the Native people, like you wouldn't believe. So her family already was picking up she's up to something. So they took her and they said, remember, when you tie a tie, you don't do that unless you know how to untie it. And when you go somewhere, you don't go there unless you know how to come back.
Okay.
And that's the only thing that they told her. They said, well, if you're thinking about going on the top of the chicken coop, that's a no-no. I mean, there is no, they would not say, don't touch the fire, but they'll tell what the fire is doing so the child can decide whether they want to touch the fire or not. Because you don't tell people what to do.
Whoa.
Knowledge comes from within and from guidance, but in a very particular way. So anyway, she told us the story. She finally found a way to go on top of the chicken coop, and she found out that if she opened the door a little bit, she can climb from the door to the top of the roof, and that's what she did. So, she was happy, and dancing and jumping and having a good time. And then she was done and wanted to come down, but guess what? The door got slammed and she couldn't go down. So she's like, what do I do now? So she saw people moving in the yard, and she tried to wave and say, hey, bring me down. And they all ignored her, because the society ignore what you're doing to yourself. Now, she was giving guidelines. You don't go to a place unless you know how to come back. And she didn't make sure that she can come back. So when she ignored the guidelines, everybody reflected to her. So for them, she was transparent. And the hours goes by.
Whoa.
And the sun is going down, and she can see from the roof that they're already gathering in the kitchen to have dinner, and she's still out there. So finally she understood that this is serious and nobody is going to come and bring her down, because they reflect to her what she's doing to herself. So she figured, she saw a very soft pile of things behind the chicken coop, which was, you know, what chicken drops
yes, yes.
after they eat.
Yes.
And she decided to jump to that soft pile.
Yes.
So she did, and got terribly dirty.
Yes.
And walked into the house and took a shower, changed her clothing and so forth, and came into the kitchen. By this time they were already washing the dishes, and they were talking above her head like she wasn't in the room. They said, oh, Tweety had a wonderful time. They called her Tweety. Had a wonderful time today. She didn't even come to have dinner. And she understood she's not going to get dinner, and she went to bed and so forth. So when I heard the stories, I said, I want to study with this person, with those people, because remember that I felt like I was growing up, feeling all alone in the world, and I have a very tender heart for the young ones. And so then I found myself living in a reservation, and then I learned even more about children upbringing.
Okay, now before you get to what else you learned, just a couple of thoughts popped into my head.
Okay.
If she hadn't seen the pile of chicken poop, and she would have found no way down, she would have had to stay up there a while. Eventually they would have, of course, she would have started crying like a child would, I suppose, and they would have taken pity on her and bring her down, don't you suppose?
No.
Well, then how would she ever get down?
Look, it was very cruel to be ignored for a year and a half, and I did cry.
No, wait, they're not going to let her starve up there on top of the chicken
I know,
coop.
but
so
here's the thing.
what would have happened if she hadn't figured it out?
Okay. Once a medicine man told me, and I have a beautiful story about that if we'll have opportunity during that video, that within a radius of 25 miles, you have everything you need for your survival. And there is something called the Great Mystery. And if she didn't find the soft little pile, she would have found something else.
Okay.
She would have found a way. She would have waited until somebody will come and go into the chicken coop. I mean, she would have found a way.
Okay, somebody would
Somebody
would go into the chicken coop and she'd say, please get me
down.
No,
she will hold the door and come down as they get in. Because the thing is, from when she was standing on the earth, she opened the door and climbed on the door, but when the door got slammed...
Okay,
so,
okay. Now another thing pops into my head.
Mm-hmm. And that's my opinion.
Okay.
I'm not an expert.
Okay.
That's what I think.
In the West, we have a huge problem with drug addiction with our youth. And, well, I would say, personally, it's one of the saddest things in the world. And I feel tears come to my eyes when I think about it. about all those destroyed lives. And, you know, in America for a long time, there was a campaign to say, just say no to drugs. And and they were broadcasting that to the young and to the whole population. Just say no, just say no, just say no. And they've tried so many things to convince youth. Also in Israel, there's a terrible problem. They've tried so many things to convince youth to just say no, and that it's so dangerous, and yet it gets worse and worse and worse. So what are we missing? That maybe the Native American teaching is wiser. What would they say? Of course, they have a huge problem with their youth, with alcoholism and drug addiction. So, I was hoping, is there something in the Native American wisdom that we're forgetting here, and because of that we're afflicted with this terrible plague? I mean, what do you think?
I think that we lost our connection to the earth, to the great mystery. And, I was tortured myself, so I didn't have a drug addiction, but I lived with this craving, as I was calling her, to be one with nature. And I was not a camper, so I didn't use drugs. So, I still felt very isolated, and we all suffering here from the first separation. And when we talked about the different worlds, I can explain this better, but one thing that I'll just say, just for now, is that within the history of the earth there are 7 worlds, and the 4th world was about separation and control.
That's what we're in now, or we?
No, we're already in the 5th world,
all
but
right.
We're in a transition time from the 4th world into the 5th world. The 5th world actually started in August 17, 1987, but we're still transitioning big time. But what I want to say, that the greatest separation that occurred in the 4th world is separation from the great mystery, because the Western culture created this entity that sits on the cloud, who is a man with a white beard, and that's the greatest separation of all. So how can we feel whole inside if our salvation is outside of us?
Okay. So there is no easy answer to this problem.
There is an easy answer, but not an easy practice.
To reconnect to the great mystery, and to bring children up in that, in that energy, in that environment of being connected. Okay. So you wanted to talk about other things about children education that you had learned.
Yeah. So what I was taught is that in the old days there was something that called the Council of the Wee People, and that's where children actually started their schooling. And they started schooling not by age. It's not when you're 3 or 4 or 5. When they start to ask questions, that was an indication to the people that the child is ready to learn.
Okay.
And they're invited to the Council of the Wee People. And within the Council of the Wee People, there are different baskets, and they're in different sizes. And every basket has different things in it that symbolize the different clans. Because the native nations, every nation has clan system. And the Senecas has 8 clans, which is a lot of clans. Usually, I don't know, there's 3, 4, something like that. But the Senecas is 8 clan, like the Bear Clan, the Beaver Clan, the Deer Clan, and so forth. And every clan teaches us something else.
Okay.
And I'll go around the wheel and I'll explain it as I'll explain the Council of the Wee People. But every child had to pick up a basket size and what's in it. So for example, a child that picked up a small basket it was indicating that he is willing to take that realm of responsibility.
Oh.
And a child that will pick up a big basket, it will indicate that they're willing to take that realm of responsibilities. And according to
a bigger responsibility.
Exactly. And according to that, but again, you know, even the words small or big are a trap. Because it just means that is the realm of the responsibility they're willing to take, or it's that realm of responsibility they're willing to take. And according to that, they'll pick up certain tasks, or they were giving certain tasks. And if the child will ignore the things that they took responsibility for, then the society will ignore them to reflect. Okay? So, and then it was important what was in the basket. Because that will indicate which clan they want to start to study with first. So for example, I'll just go quickly around the wheel. So the Bear clan taught medicine, like herbs and things like that, because the bear would know how to feed themselves to last for a whole winter. And the people were watching them and saw exactly what the bear picks on and so forth. So Bear clan taught medicine. Beaver clan taught cooperation, you know, how the beaver do things together.
Yes.
The Hawk clan taught observation and conservation. The hawk is the keenest eyesight from all the animals.
Yes.
And then you have the Deer clan that taught physical fitness. And the Heron clan that teaches nourishment. Like the heron, the people made observation that they bury, like they'll eat a fish and they bury the head next to plants, and those plants will grow bigger and nicer.
Oh, wow.
And so forth. And then there is a Snipe clan that taught self-discipline, and they had the Bear Turtle clan that taught the moral code. They live many, many years. I mean, there are turtles that live 300 years. So they're very wise, and they taught the moral code. And then the Wolf clan that taught connection to the earth and how to live and work together as family.
Twyla was, of course, the Wolf clan.
She was the Wolf clan. And
As
you
are
have
you.
a beautiful wolf.
That's right.
And my grandfather, his name was Wolf Bear, and she always asked me, who brought here? And I said, I think it was my grandfather, Wolf Bear, because he died when I was 3 months old, and my mother couldn't breastfed me because her milk went sour when he died. So he owed me one, you know. My brother is a wolf, yeah.
He's named Wolf, is it not so?
After my grandfather, yeah.
Yes. Zeb.
So, Zeb.
Okay. So you are a wolf. You are in the Wolf clan, are you not?
I study with the Wolf clan, Wolf wisdom. And what happened is, I'll just go back to the Council of the Wee People. So a child, according to what they picked up, it indicated to the people what they want to study first. So for example, let's say if they picked up thing that has to do with nourishment, it's indicating that they want to start their study with the Heron clan.
Okay.
Or if they pick up medicinal herbs, that sends them straight to the Bear clan, and so forth. So they would stay. They would stay with those people, with those clan to study, and then they just moved around and study from each clan those things. So when they're become an adult, they already learned all of those things, which I think is incredible.
So do I.
And that's the way they learn.
And how do they choose one clan? Like Twyla was a wolf. Don't they have to choose one thing to identify? Let's say, especially.
No, you're born to the mother's clan. So if you born
like the Jews.
Yeah, exactly. So if your mother is a wolf clan, you are a wolf clan.
Okay.
And then, so it goes. It's a society that is matriarchal. is a matriarch. And there is a reason for that, and I can explain that. But anyway, it goes by the mother. So, for example, if you get married, you go to your wife's family. She doesn't come to your family.
Wow. Okay.
So,
yeah, this matriarchal system had a lot to do with the establishment of the Iroquois Confederacy. Isn't that so?
not
Because-
necessarily, because it will always like that. And
Okay.
I'll just finish with the children upbringing, and then I'll go to that. But anyway, the last thing I want to say about that is I think that the major difference between our culture, our Western culture, to the Native American culture is that the Native American will continuously will make observation about your skill, your talents, your gift, and will create a place where you to develop those things.
Ah.
And I remember one time my father came to me and he said, your brother wants to study psychology, and that concerns me. And I said, why? And he said, there is not a lot of work in the market. And I said, so what would you want him to do? He says, I think he should study accounting because there is always work in the market for that. And I said, Dad, you know how I live my life, and I think that if my brother wants to study, he should. But I want to say at that time there was 3 universities in Israel. It was extremely hard to get into the psychology.
I know.
And all the 3 universities accepted him, and he got a full scholarship and he has a very good job, psychologist today. But what I want to say, this is like a fine example about how we approach the next generation. And I always think that if everybody would live their mission in life, there'll be no wars here. So let me go
Beautiful.
back to the
Okay.
matriarch, and I explain.
Yes, yes.
The female is an extension of the Earth Mother, and she works with the Earth Mother and with Grandmother Moon, because she gives birth like the Earth Mother does. The male is planting the seed. They are the seed planter, and she is the womb just like the Earth Mother does, and she gives life just like the Earth Mother does. And she has a cycle of 28 days just like Grandmother Moon does. So those are the things that the female works with. Now the earth is stable. We walk upon the Earth Mother, and that's why the woman is a stabilizer, and she is reflection of Grandmother Earth, and that's why the women were actually the one that made the decision. And when you see the chiefs standing among the people, standing in front of the people and carry the word out, that's what they are. They're spokespeople. And us as a Western culture, when we know about the chiefs and their spoken word, we think that they are the one that makes the decision. But the decision makers are the clan mothers, the grandmothers, the clan mothers.
In every tribe, are there not patriarchal tribes?
I think they are in Canada.
Tribes, as a matter of fact, also.
The what?
Patriarchal tribes, also warrior tribes, as you will. Very much into warrior ethic. That's not the case. That
I really
some
don't.
tribes-
I'm not such an expert. I know that in Canada there are nations that are not a matriarch, but I don't know if that's a Western distortion or
Okay.
they're always like that. I just don't know. I can only represent the point of view of the people I lived with, which is the Haudenosaunee, the Five Nation Peace League, which you call Iroquois Confederacy in the Western culture.
Didn't you also live Wata with the Apache and?
I didn't. I worked with a Apache grandmother, and she would say Apashu, and she's still alive. I love her dearly. And I can maybe talk a little bit about her, but what I want to finish regarding the matriarch is later on when I did my degree in psychology, what I learned from my professor that was a male, he said that female, the way their brain is designed, they can see a whole picture. And a man doesn't have that kind of brain.
Yes, I understand. I've heard that women, both lobes of the brain work pretty much in balance, whereas with a male, one side will be more dominant, and it's often the left side, which is the logical reasoning side. That's what I've heard.
Yeah. So, later on in the class of the biology of psychology, that's what I was taught. And I think that Native people, many, many times, they knew things hundreds and thousands of years that the science came and proved of this and that, like science proved that you can read the history of what happened through the environmental stones. I mean, Native people know how to do it for decades. So
decades?
Yeah.
Yeah, longer than decades, right?
I don't know exactly.
Okay.
I don't have numbers.
Okay. So, Wata, I would like to hear. Grandma Twyla received a lot of flack for teaching white people, and you said that all kinds of people came to her house, drunks and drug addicts and mentally disturbed, and also, I mean, normal people too. I mean, people in better shape.
Here and there we got normal people too, but I don't know what it means normal people anymore.
Neither do I know what that. I'm certainly not normal, that's for sure. And I don't want to be. So she got a lot of flack, but with the publishing of the book, she became famous, and she traveled the world, and including to Israel a few times, and eventually she would send you. Isn't that right?
Yeah, she was getting older, so I have a little story that I think will be nice to tell. She was getting older, so she sent me to represent the teaching. And one time she got an invitation from Erie. Erie was a very big city close to where we lived in Pennsylvania. It's a big city. And they celebrated Earth Day. So they invited her to be the keynote speaker on this Earth Day event. And she said, well, you go. She said, I don't want to go, you go. So I'm calling the person that was inviting her, and I said, look, Twyla doesn't want to go. She wants me to go. And she said, great. I said, how many people are going to be there? I asked. And she said, about 1,000. And I think I'm turning green. I was in my 20s, and English was not my native language, and thousands of people, I thought I'm going to faint. But Twyla, this is something very significant. She said, always go where you grow the most. So I knew it was an invitation for me to grow. And she sent me, and that was the contract I made with her. So I showed up, and it was the mayor of Erie, a few legislators, and me. And I was the keynote speaker. And I have those wide pants, and I was inside the pants. I was shaking. But after a while, I came down and I spoke for 45 minutes. But the thing that I want to share with you that was so significant to me, and I came to her and I said, "What?" I said, Twyla, there are going to be 1,000 people in that square. Do you think it's responsible to send me? And she said, look. I was like, look. She said, your family was here, your parents, and you gave a presentation in front of your family. And she said, they want the best for us, but they are the worst critic because you represent them when you represent something. So she said, and so that's the hardest presentation to do when your family is there. And she said, if you're able to present in front of your family, you can present anywhere. And that's how she sent me to that square.
And what do you, Twyla has since passed on. What do you miss most about Twyla?
All right, so the great mystery, it's very interesting, Eliyahu. You wouldn't believe, I got to tell those things because this is magic, okay? Twyla's son, she was very, very connected to, got burned in a fire right next door. And that time I already didn't live on the reservation. I lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico. But it just happened. When that event happened, I was an hour and a half away. And one of the elders that were around at that time was able to hunt me down. And she called me and she said, Jimmy just died. Come right away, Twyla needs you. And I was there, and I was there for a week. And in the end of the week, we put her in a car with her son Bob with a little suitcase, and she never came back to the res. And then, I don't know, every once in a while Bob will call me and he will say, we need to go to Europe, and can you come and be with Twyla? And I came one time, but the other times I just couldn't. I was getting sick myself, and I just couldn't. But the last time he called, he didn't give up on me. Last time he called, he said, look, Twyla is really getting frail, and we just don't trust people to come and be here with us. There's one person that we trust, and we would like to ask you to come with her and be with her. There's another person that was watching her when I came. But, and then I got this notebook with all of the instruction of how to take care of her, because that time she was already with dementia, and within like one day maybe, she went down so badly that I looked at the notebook and it's got nothing of what she was described. I mean, she lost function by the minute. And it was very moving, to wipe up my elders behind, and doing all those bodily things. And the thing is that I felt very fortunate to be there while she was actually crossing over. And they had to come back from Europe because she was in her way out. But during that time, when we sat and we listened to her words of wisdom on a CD they made, I thought that what I missed more than anything about Twyla and what I crave is her sense of humor. Because what I missed the most is laughing with her. She was a very funny person, and big thing in Native culture is teasing and laughter. Humor is very, very big in Native American culture. And I don't miss her words of wisdom. I carry her wisdom with me, but I do miss laughing with her and teasing her. And even when she was like half conscious and with dementia, I kind of teasing her about something, and she just did something like bad girl, but yeah.
And she was a great musician, is that not right?
She had the first all-girls band in the country, the U.S. She was the drummer. She was a jazz pianist, and we had amazing musicians coming to the res and playing with her, banging on the drums and the piano and everything.
Wow. Wata, I would love to hear about your other two great teachers, your other two, the spiritual grandmothers or mothers or whatever you want to call them. Tell me about them. Let's start with who you want.
I would like to start with Grandmother Kitty.
Okay.
And she lived with Grandmother Twyla, so I got the benefit of living with two grandmothers. I lived with Twyla alone for a while, and then Grandmother Kitty joined us. We called her the Whip because she was like a New Yorker Jew, She was just like, Wing. And she was not very compassionate. if you did something that was really off, she let you have it. I have a very funny story about
Oh, Yofi.
about it. We once went to an opening in the Berkshires. And you know, there's all kinds of fancy people there.
In New York. What is that, mountains? Or what?
It's in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a place where rich people from New York go and have a vacation. And
It's like mountains?
yeah. So
Okay.
we went there, and
Even though you weren't rich, how did you
we
handle
were
it?
invited. I was
Okay.
on the road. I was on the road with Grandmother Kitty and a Druze elder. What happened is that I brought Grandmother Kitty here, and here she met Hamzi Araidi, who is a very, very well-known, respected Druze elder here in Israel. He's one of the best trackers the state of Israel has. And
Oh, wow, yes.
he's an incredible man. So we picked him up in the airport, and the first thing that he told us, he said, I'm going to tell many stories, and I'm not going to repeat any story twice. He lived with the Bedouins for 28 years, so he really had a lot of stories.
I bet.
And when I brought Grandmother Kitty here, they fell in love with one another, she and Hamzi. I'm not talking romantically, but
Okay.
as they had an affinity for one another. And she invited him to come to be with us in the States. And for a month, I traveled with those two elders, and it was not easy because I was the driver, the translator, the cook. But the thing that was the most challenging is I was transparent. Those guys saw me like I felt naked through the entire trip, and
You mean they saw deep into your soul?
they saw me. They saw everything. And so anyway, so when we were in the Berkshires, there was a woman there. Her name was Silas. She was from Monaco.
Yes.
And Grandmother Kitty let her have it. She was just like, shh. She threw that whip on her. And this girl, instead of doing this, she was so impressed with Grandmother Kitty's guts that while Grandmother Kitty was going to the bathroom, she kept on saying, oh, this grandmother. She was in so much awe. And then finally one of the guys that sat with us says, you know, we have another elder here. So if you want me to talk about my Native American grandmother, if you don't mind, I would like to include that other Druze elder in my story.
Please go ahead.
Okay, so anyway, and I'm going to repeat his story, and I trust that I'll do a good job, but you should have him and photograph him one day too.
I would love it.
But anyway, so this woman, Silas, basically told him that he has about 2 minutes to impress her.
What, is she the guy? Is she the person who decides who gets to speak in front of the?
No.
Okay.
It was just a social event. We're all around a table drinking tea, coffee, and wine.
Okay.
But she was just like, "Hey, you have 2 minutes to impress me here."
Okay.
So he started to tell her one of his Bedouin stories. So I'm segueing from Grandmother Kitty for a second, just so you understand the whole being on the road thing. So I tell her the story of this professor from Harvard that comes into the desert. And he comes and he's being introduced to this old grandpa Bedouin guy. And he's an anthropologist, and he comes to the old Bedouin and he says, look, everything is blooming here, there is so much green, how do you do that? That's amazing. And the old Bedouin said, do you see the mountain up there? He said, I have a donkey there and a whale. And he said, and there is a rope connected to the donkey's neck, and he goes around and around the well, and it pulls the water up, and here they come with all those little streams comes and they water everything. And he said that he has a bell around the donkey's neck, so you know he's doing his job. And if the bell, as long as you hear the bell rings, you know the donkey's doing his job.
By squeezing the well with the rope.
No, by going around the well, he's pulling that pump. He's pulling a pump. He's actually activating a pump.
Okay.
Instead of doing the...
Okay.
He's doing it manually.
But why does he say well instead of pump?
No, it's I might not pronounce it right, but
wow.
Yeah, it pulls water out of your
well. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, it happened before, and people thought I'm talking about a fish.
All right, well,
but anyway,
a well is not a fish, but that's fine.
A big fish, like a whale.
It's a mammal, but nevertheless.
Yeah. So anyway, so the professor is sitting there fascinated, and he said, "Hey. But what if the donkey is sitting in one place and just do this with his head?" So the Bedouin said, "That's why he's a donkey and not a professor." And
okay, because he doesn't. He's not smart enough to get out of
exactly
to get out of his work. I get it.
Exactly, and that was Hamzi's basically saying to this woman Silas,
yes,
that when they're you better choose your words carefully and your approach carefully, because we are coming here in a generous manner.
Yes,
you know.
Yes.
And so anyway, that's the story. So Grandmother Kitty was very fascinated with Hamzi, and we had an amazing month. So Grandmother Kitty, as we call her, the whip. One thing that I have to say about her, that her heart was so big, and when she died, my friend asked me, he said, "I knew her very little, what can you say about her?" And I said, she had the guts to love. And because beside being the whip, she remembered every single story that we told us.
Whoa.
That we told about her grandfather and her grandmother and what they did and what they say. She could remember everything. And but she was fierce. She created the first rehab in America for Native American people, and she used to travel in a big van and loaded with those Native American, and she would take them to their reservation and have the medicine people work with them. And I heard some horror stories of, she had a gun in the van, and I heard some horror stories about traveling, that type of traveling, when some of the guys wanted to sneak out and drink some mouthwash in public bathrooms and things like that. And somebody told me that she just put the gun in their head. She said, "How dare you, risking this whole operation?" And she was fierce, but she had the guts to love. And I was also fortunate enough to walk with her in her last moments. And she was the psychologist. Twyla was the philosopher, but Grandmother Kitty actually had a social worker degree, and she won an award from the state of California because she had 64 foster kids.
Whoa.
And with 80% success, which is unbelievable.
Yes.
So she taught me about human nature, because when I met her I was so naive. I thought everybody was good and everybody does good things, and I didn't want to think about too suspicious. And she was just she was like a laser, and we'll sit around the fire like with Hamzi on that traveling trip, and somebody will tell a story. And then she said, "Well, do you know what the story was about?" And I said, "Well, it was about blah, blah, blah." And she said, "No, it was not about this at all. So through her, I learned how to look into things. And her name was Dark Sun She Walks, the solar eclipse, the corona.
Whoa.
And her mission was to shed light on all the dark places, and that's why she was the whip. And
whoa.
And when I went to travel with her in Israel, she was shedding so much light on so much dark that in a certain point in the trip I thought, I just want to jump. I mean, I saw so many negative things that I didn't see before with my naive approach, that I'm just like, okay, I'm ready to jump from the 10th floor. But when I came all in one piece back from that trip, I felt that I was a different person. And if you ask me what happened, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I just know that I came back as a different person.
Wow.
And that type of transformation she offered by her present and the words that she threw here and there.
Whoa. And she was a Lakota, is that correct?
She was Eagle Clan, Lakota. And it's funny because the people that came to the res, they're either connected very deeply with Twyla or they connected very deeply with Kitty. And as I said, she had the guts to love, because sometimes Kitty will just take a woman who's in the size of a mountain and just pull her into her lap and rock her like she was a little girl. So, which is also not very native, you know. They keep distance a little bit, but she just, and so people that were more into philosophy and things like that, they got very taken by Twyla's material, and there are other people that were completely hooked to Kitty, but they both look at those grandmothers and as the grandmothers.
Wow.
And for me, I felt very fortunate because Kitty was like the simplicity and Twyla was the complexity, and I have them both. We have a song in Hebrew about the city mouse and the field mouse, and I feel that I'm very complex and I'm very simple. So
you're fine, beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's one more, isn't that
There is
correct?
one more. There's Grandmother Shanadi. She's still alive. She's in her 80s. And she's an Apashu. And she belonged to a circle of grandmothers. There is 32 grandmothers, and they all have very particular missions. And Grandmother Shanadi, her mission is to carry the Mawate, which is a very particular ceremony which I did conduct one time in your place.
Yes.
And basically you draw symbols in corn, with cornmeal. And every little kernel is a prayer. So you pray with the corn and you draw particular symbols, which is like the creation story. And she taught me the Mawate and some other things. For me, she's the one that taught me a lot about ceremony. And she's in New Mexico right now, in Pecos, New Mexico. We speak on the phone. And she has something very unique, and it's called a stone circle. And what happened is that she was raised, she is a descendant of Geronimo, and she was raised in the Hidden Valley, and that's where Geronimo took his people to hide from the boat people, Twyla calls them, the one that came with the boats. And some people said that he would never have been found if he didn't, from his own will, came out. From the Hidden Valley.
He made a decision to come out and to surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened is that Shandi was born in the Hidden Valley, but she lost her parents in a very early age, and her mission also was to share the teaching with the Western world, and And in the Hidden Valley, there is something called the Mother Stone, and it's kind of a reddish stone. And from that Mother Stone, their other stone were carved. So Shanadi has had a necklace. When I met her, she had a necklace of 32 beads.
From the Mother Stone?
Yes.
Okay.
And each one of the women in her circle is carry one of the beads from that necklace. I have one here that I have on on my neck, so I belong to that particular circle. And since then,
it sounds like Arthur's Round Table, Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah, and we are all connected to one another. And when I joined the circle, I didn't know her very well, but I accepted the invitation because I felt that I came from across the waters. I'm from another land, and I belong to other people, and I felt that if I can bring in the essence of that, it will fulfill a prophecy of the fifth world, that all people, all colors, all nations are coming together as one. So I'll be helping to bring that essence into the circle. But each and every one of us can begin our own circle, meaning
each one of the 32.
Of the 32, like we belong to Shandi's circle, and if I'm a stone carrier, that's the way it calls, to be a stone carrier, I can I can pick up a stone. Let's say I pick up a turquoise or something that particular to me, and I can have 32 beads, which I'll give to 32 women.
Yes.
And that's the way you have the ripple effect. And there are many, many circles right now.
Wow.
And they're all connected to that Mother Stone that Shanadi has. And I just tell you a little funny story about that. Is one time I went to do some family constellation with a teacher, and she wanted that the woman that works with her will read our aura during the constellation to get additional information. And I mean, they asked her permission and so forth. So I'm coming to my constellation, and the woman is sitting there, and she can't read my aura. She can't tap into it. So finally she said, look, are you wearing one of those goddamn stones? And I said, yes. And she said, I can't. She said, unless you take the stone out, I can't.
Whoa.
I can't tap into your...
Whoa.
So that was funny.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so Shamandi has a gathering. Once a year she has a gathering of the rocks. We all send our rock back. And it also gives opportunity for people who decided the circle is not for them. They send the rock with a different wrapping, and that indicates that they wish to withdraw from the circle. And once every 2 years we get together physically.
Beautiful.
And there are different ceremonies. There's 32 ceremonies within that circle. So you learn the ceremonies, and many of them are rite of passage ceremony, like wedding, birth of a child. There is the sacred rock, and it's not like a sweat lodge. It takes 4 days to do it.
Whoa.
And it's designed and made completely different, and only after I've done it I realized why it's 4 days, and you cannot do it in 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, because you don't sweat, and the process of doing it and living it, that's what brings the transformation. So
she's your teacher of sacred ceremony.
That's how I consider her. Yeah, she's the ceremony meister.
Okay, Wata. I know we could go on, and I would love to, and I want you to come again. When we said we would talk about how you got your name, you said you have a story for Jamie about the famous, great Jamie Sams. I'm very tempted. I mean, I love Jamie Sams. I work with her cards. I have her medicine cards and also her native. I used to have a native. I forget the name of those cards, but they gave it to a good friend.
They're sacred
pet cards. Yes,
yeah,
that's what I used
fabulous.
to have. And I'm a big admirer. I'm tempted to ask you, or shall we leave that for another day? You'll decide.
It's up to you. It's a short story.
Well, okay. Tell us about the brilliant Jamie Sams.
So Jamie Sams is funny as hell. And she used to come once a year to clean house, okay, over Twyla's.
Over
because Twyla was always moving within the spirit of her culture. The door was open and everybody could come in. But also there are a lot of people that really very, very harmful to the place, to the environment, to the people that came, because they struggle with a lot of imbalances.
Yes,
and Twyla would never tell them you need to leave or something like that.
Whoa.
But Jamie Sims came and she used to clean house once a year. So anyway, what happened is that I was on the road teaching. And when I came back, Jamie came and she was over Twyla's. And we were sisters and we really love one another. She also wrote My Name is Evening Star, Wata. And
that's your name.
That's my name. So in the Clan Mother book, she dedicated a poem.
Oh, wow.
It has to do with my name.
Her famous book about the 13...
Clan, yeah. So...
Clan Mothers. Wow, okay.
Yeah, because we really love one another. But anyway, what I want to share is that because I was traveling and came from the road, Jamie wanted to offer me her bed. No, actually, no, it didn't go like that. I stayed in the upstairs bedroom, okay? And there are 2 beds in Twyla's upstairs bedrooms. And so I would share it with guests that came. And that time it was Jamie, because she came, and so I would sleep in one bed and she would sleep in the other. So so what happened, I came from traveling, and I said to myself, I said, Jamie is traveling a lot. I want to give her the space, so I would sleep in the living room on the couch. So I decided not to go and sleep on the room, and I went to sleep on the couch. And in the morning, I woke up and I went to take our wolf dog out for a walk. And all of a sudden, I see Jamie sleeping on the couch in the porch. Now, this couch was raggedy, stinky, full of dog's hair, smelling from all the things that the dogs did on it. And she was sleeping there. And I said, what are you doing here? And she said, what are you doing here? Coming to find out that because I was traveling, she left me the bedroom, and I left her the bedroom, not knowing that what we did for one another. So the bedroom was empty all night long.
What a beautiful story. Wow.
So it's always our little private joke.
Whoa,
but Jamie's very, very caring human being, and she's so extremely and deeply generous. And she always buys gift to everybody and help, and it's very good to have a sister like Jane.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, she shares everything she has extremely generously, and she also has a huge heart.
I'm sure she does. And it comes across in her writing. Yeah. Her great mind and her great heart. Okay. So, Wata, what about this name?
Yeah, Wata. It's Evening Star, and I was very grateful to get this name because it was helped me to resolve a lot of puzzling things that went with me through my life, And one of the puzzling thing was that I always find myself alone, as I shared with you. When I graduated from elementary school and we all went to high school, everybody went to a school in the neighborhood close by, and I went to a school in Tel Aviv. So
Okay.
I was alone. There is one person from my school that went. And then when I joined the military, I was young in age, so I went alone. And I came to America alone. Everybody came with somebody, I came alone. And that's the last thing I want to do, is to come alone. So I always kind of find myself. So anyway, I even invented a profession, which I found out that I didn't invent it at all. But I had the idea, and again, I was always like by myself, making something out of nothing, and so pioneering, in short. So either pioneering or I was on my own. And when Twyla gave me the name Evening Star, she said it's our responsibility to learn as much as we can about our name, because it reflects something in our essence, which is very important. So I said, okay, so tell me, how do you perceive Evening Star? And she said, the evening star is the first one that rises. It comes when it's still light and it stays for the dark. So, and she said, it's all alone in the sky, all alone. And later on, the other stars comes. And so for me, all of a sudden I understood why I went this alone and this alone and this alone, and why I pioneered this and this and that. And the thing is, you see, about this pioneering mission is I did a lot of things in my life that people say, oh, it's so courageous. But for me, it's not courageous at all, because I don't see the obstacles. I just look where the doors are open. While other people see the obstacle, like people that come to work with me, sometimes they'll cry, baby, about this and this and that, and I'm sitting there and I'm listening to them, but I just see the open doors. I mean, it doesn't mean that I don't have compassions. I have my own trials and tribulations, but when I need to approach something, that's what I'm looking for. And I think that this name gives me a lot of strength. And in America, everybody calls me Wata.
So the star starts out alone, but she doesn't end up alone.
Exactly.
Yes.
And that's what I feel happened to me when I came to Israel about 4 years ago. I came back to live after 27 years in the States, is that I feel now I'm among the stars, and because there is so much love here, and now I feel that I'm just surrounded with stars. And you know something? I have friends all over Europe, from the res, and
I bet.
all different places around the globe, and I don't want to go anywhere. And people say, come, come, come. And I'm sitting in my neighborhood, and people go abroad all the time. They go this trip, and I don't want to go anywhere. I'm so happy to be with the stars and stay put.
You're very beautiful.
Yeah.
Wata, speaking of, well, you mentioned your profession. Let's talk a little bit before concluding for today about what you do here. What do you say?
Okay, I do basically two things right now. I have a coaching business. I still
Yes.
work with some clients in the U.S. I work with people here. I teach some native philosophy, but I mostly, in my coaching, I do kind of Native American style coaching.
I bet. Yeah.
So I'll always bring the teaching, and people don't even know it's Native American stuff, because it's very easy. You know, everybody can relate to a tree, to the sun, to the wind, and I can always bring things from this material, and immediately it clicks. But I also went through a traditional coaching training in the state with a master coach, so I love working with people. It fascinates me.
It is fascinating, but it has a spiritual orientation.
Always, yeah. People who are not spiritually oriented. I do business coaching too, but even the business coaching that I do, it's always based in spirituality. So this is one thing that I do. And the other thing that I do is I work with a device. I'm actually a distributor of a device because when I came to Israel, I met Zvi Kamil. He was an Israeli elder. He was a real elder. I mean, he was a very important man. He was the head of the committee that protects Israel from nuclear power.
Yes.
So, I mean, his phone call was like the prime minister. This
Yes.
kind of people called him. But when you sat with him, he gives you a feeling it has all the time in the world.
Wow.
And he will listen to you until the end of time. And
Wow.
so he came to me and he invented a device, which is, I have it here, maybe I can show
I know,
you.
and when you came in,
It's like this thing
you
here.
were wearing this
I was wearing this
in the
because-
back of your trousers.
Yeah.
I saw it halfway out, right? It was sticking
It's an electromagnetic pad. You can stick it anywhere. But basically, I start to feel weak, and it gives me frequencies, so I can. So anyway, I got severely ill while I was on the rest. A tick bit me, and I got Lyme disease.
Yes.
It took 11 years to diagnose me.
Why?
And I was so deeply weak, and what happened is that frequency medicine put me back on my feet.
All right.
So I'm a great. I have a great devotion to frequency medicine, considered the medicine of the future. But this guy, Zvi Kamil, he said, look, you have a lot of connection in the States. Why don't you go and open a market for me there? Now, I'm not a salesperson, but he was an elder, and I like to serve the elders. So I said, you know something, I'll do it for you because I would love to do it for you. And I went. And I found out I was an incredible salesperson.
Okay, I bet.
And I sold a lot of devices because I cared about the people.
Yes,
and
you
I
speak
would,
from the heart, and everybody could see that.
and
who has a little sense.
Yeah, and I would sit with them and listen to them for hours if I had to, because not everybody is quick and sharp, and sometimes it's an old lady that is in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
So anyway, when I came back, Zvi died. Just like that. A week
Okay.
after I came, he was gone from a sudden heart attack. He went to bed and didn't wake up. So the company owner came from New York and he asked me if I'll continue. So in the past 2 years, I helped to develop, everything because it was not a marketable product. And I'm close to open the market in the States very soon. But I work here and I work in America, but I love frequency medicine, so I'm learning a lot about that and work with those devices.
So tell us a little bit about this machine. It was amazing to see you come in with this thing sticking out halfway from your belt. And you said that you were feeling weak and it was giving you strength.
Yes, so this is a pad, and basically you put it on the body, and it gives you electromagnetic pulse hertzes. That's what it gives you. Very low hertzes, which is very good for you. It's not like a cell phone or something like that, which is very high frequency and very static.
Yes, of
it
course.
doesn't change. And this is a box, and you can burn on this box anything you want. You have a library in the software with thousands of things.
Like what?
Anywhere from bad breath to cancer to AIDS.
A vibration that helps with bad breath or cancer or AIDS?
Yeah, well, it depends. You can program things for chronic things, like Lyme disease, like asthma,
And they discovered a
fibromyalgia.
a certain pattern that helps with each
Absolutely.
one?
Scientists
how
work on it
fascinating.
for years and years. And everything that is here is a known knowledge.
Okay.
So
Fibromyalgia, that's deadly, as is Lyme disease. It can be.
yes.
So it really helps with such serious things?
Serious things. So you can do chronic things like I have, or you can do acute things like after surgery for repair, or like, for example, the flu. I'm out of the flu in 2 days, just like that, because I have this device. I run it 4-6 times a day. I'm out of it the next day.
What do you? If somebody wants to know more about how to get this and how to use it, what do they do?
They can call me. I'm 054 484-9635.
Okay.
And my email address is 22doorkeeper@gmail.com.
Okay.
So that's my, I'll say again, my phone number, 054-484-9635. And I'm 22doorkeeper@gmail.com. And this is fabulous. They can get it for a trial period, and that's how I work with practitioners. That's how I sold all these devices. Is I gave it for people to try on for a week, and if they have an incredible pain, like from severe inflammation,
wow,
and they're pain-free, you know,
wow,
they bought it in a few days.
Goodness.
So, anyway.
What a thing. What's the name of this machine?
It's called MD Wave.
MD Wave.
Yeah.
Okay, Wata. So, Wata, it's been fun.
And whoever come through this, I can give them a discount.
Okay.
And the name of the company is Elotel.
Huh?
Elotel. Elotel is the name of the company.
But
they can just Google MD Wave Israel.
Okay.
And
okay.
Yeah.
Wata, it's been enlightening, fun, and moving. And I want to do it again.
All right.
And thank you very, very much.
Okay. Thank you, Eliyahu, for giving me a sacred space to us to share together.
Okay.
Thank you.
So God bless you, and God bless your work.
Thank you.